Welcome back. It is always a good day when I wake up, give thanks, and I know that today is a day that I am privileged to introduce you to another remarkable human being on the planet. You are in for a big, big, big treat today. Before I introduce Julianne, I just want to say thank you for all of the new countries that are listening. Slovenia, oh my gosh, welcome aboard. Belgium, Ecuador, New Zealand, Philippines, Sweden, Norway, Spain, India, Ireland, the UK, Canada coming in at number 3, Australia number 2. You just booted Canada out of my number 2 spot, and of course the United States, which is where I'm broadcasting from. All right, just quickly, why death? I started this podcast as somewhere to park my remarkable grief. I lost my mom in 2010, didn't really lose her. She's still here. Anyway, the way I believe. And then my big sister left, and I just was at a loss. And I was doing traditional radio, and a friend of mine owned a podcasting network and said, Jane, you should do a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, what do I do it about? So I really had to think about it. And what it kept coming back to was a transition. Where did my loved ones go? And I was receiving signs, or at least I thought I was. And I started thinking, death is a very interesting topic for me. And I wrote up a proposal. He absolutely loved it. And that's why it is all about death. Death, dying, grief, afterlife, wills and trusts, green burial practices, cultural traditions, you name it. To me, death is dinner conversation. So that is why the next room was created. My guest today, Julianne Ankley. All right, so I have a couple different hats that I wear, and one of them is I started in radio because I love music. Absolutely love music. Grew up with it. My sister played piano in our living room. My dad's best friend, Torchy, had a stand-up bass and was always playing his stand-up bass in our family room. When we left our home as kids, the big hi-fi, this is dating me, but we had this big old stereo hi-fi. We left the music on. We left music on in our home when we were gone for 3 or 4 days. When we would open up the house and come back in, we stepped back into music. And so from a very young age, it was just everything to me. So I got into radio so I could play music. Flash forward, I went to broadcasting school with a man named Brian Maloney. Brian, here we are, 30, 40 odd years later. We had kind of lost touch, and he reached out and said, hey, Asher, I am starting this radio station to focus on our beloved home state and the brilliance of the music that's coming out of Michigan. Do you want to hop on board? And here I am doing this death podcast, and I'm like, this might lighten it up a bit. So that's my other hat. So it's called the Sonic Coast. Please stop what you're doing, download the app right now. So that's how I met the guest that's coming on. Long way around, but now it's all about Julianne. Julianne Ankley, 14 Detroit Music Awards. She is such a delight to get to know. I've had the opportunity to interview her on the Sonic Coast. She's an absolute hoot. She is a singer-songwriter, spends a lot of time down in Nashville, and she is brilliant. So JulianneAnkley.com is where you can find her. Welcome to the next room.
Jane, that's quite an introduction. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Julianne, after I spoke to you on the Sonic Coast, I just had this feeling. I'm like, oh, she would be so good for my podcast. I wonder if she'd be willing. And when you said, yeah, bring it on, let's do it, I got really excited.
Oh my
So
gosh, that's so great.
by the time this airs, your brand new single, What Makes You Dance, is out.
Yeah.
I actually purchased it in advance. It is so much fun. Let's talk about, when did you get started into the world of music? Give us a little background in your little bio.
Well, it's funny that story that you just told about music always being on in your house, because that's how it was for me too. Maybe it's a Michigan thing. I don't know, but we never shut the radio off. It's still on at my parents'. And I remember there was a point when us kids were old enough to reach the radio, we would fight over the station after a while, because we were starting to develop our musical taste pretty early. And I remember one Christmas in particular, we all received an AM radio for our bedrooms. And it began the same thing again. We all had a separate radio station on. And my favorite was CKLW because it had a little bit of everything. So
Come on, CKLW.
the
Grew up
Motor
on it.
City.
Totally grew up on it. Remember
Yeah.
when they used to do the countdown, their top songs? I think it was like 100 songs. And
Yeah.
we would be having dinner in the living room. It would be Sunday dinner after church. And my sisters my folks had let them have their transistor on, and they had a list and they were writing them all down. I remember Lynn, Gail, Patty, Donna all like would hop up in the middle of dinner and go over and write number 89, the Turtles or whatever. Anyway, great.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, music has been since I can remember. One of my earliest memories is my dad coming home after work and going right to the piano and playing the piano and then wrestling with us all in the living room and roughhousing with us while mom was finishing up getting dinner ready. So it's always been about music for me. It still is, just
I love
always.
I love that you're writing. Where do you find your inspiration? You told me a great story about the ghost
Hmm.
of the lighthouse. What
Yes.
I'm drawing a blank right now. It's the ghost of the
Fort Gratiot
Fort
Lighthouse.
Gratiot Lighthouse. Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And I'll put a link to the video because that video is so good. Tell the Next Room listeners how that inspiration came on that song, because I find it fascinating that you're pulling from all these different places to write these songs.
Yeah, well, that song was particularly fun because I was at a songwriter retreat in Harbor Springs, Michigan, John Lamb's songwriter retreat, and it was a much needed rest. And one of the most wonderful things about this retreat is on the very first morning, John gives each individual person that is there, each songwriter, a specific prompt. Each one is separate, and he will take time to gear it toward the songwriter. So he gets to know each of these songwriters before they even come to the retreat. He learns a little bit about them first and just caters something to them. For me, it happened to be the Fort Gratiot Lighthouse, which is very close to my home. And it's the oldest lighthouse in the state of Michigan. It was built in 1825. And there's been stories, many stories over the years of ghosts in the lighthouse, and there's been paranormal companies that have come and filmed there and whatnot. But for my song prompt, John had challenged me to write a song about the ghost in the Fort Gratiot Lighthouse. So I took that prompt and that's what I did. And I wrote that song in 2008. And I remember that I was so excited about it. And my phone at the time was not your iPhone that you have today, where you could record something on it. So I was singing the song all the way home because I didn't want to lose the phrasing. I didn't want to lose how I sang it. And it's about a 4.5 hour drive. And I forgot to watch the gas gauge. So about 20 miles from home, I ran out of gas and I had to have my dad come and rescue me. So that song, there's always been funny little things about that song along the way. But in 2020, I decided to put that song on my album With Love from Lake Huron, because obviously it was about songs that meant something to me, not only, but a little bit about my region and where I'm from too. Instead of trying to chase just this broad generic songwriting style, I decided to embrace a little bit of me and where I was from. So that's how
Wow.
it made it on.
I love that. Lake Huron, what a beautiful place. I
It
was
really
7 miles off of Lake Huron, and every time I'm home, it draws you. It just draws you in.
It really
Michigan,
does.
such a beautiful, amazing state, and people are so darn cool. Like I meet people all over, and it's amazing how many people connect that are from Michigan. I mean,
It's
it's
true.
remarkable. And there's a really a generosity of spirit and kindness about the people in Michigan. I'm
I
not
think so
saying
too.
everyone, but it really, yeah. And it always, my first thing when I get home, I'm out on the West Coast. And so when I come home, the first thing I notice right away is how friendly everyone is.
Yeah.
People don't say hello to each other at a gas station here,
No,
ever. And the
no.
minute I get home and I'll pull my little rental car in to gas up, and people are like, "Hey, how you doing? What's going on?" And I'm like, at first you're like, "Ooh, that's weird." And it's like, "Oh no, it's just because you're not used to people being friendly at the
Yeah,
gas
it's true.
station." Wonderful. So 14 music awards, and you won
Yes.
one for that song. And that
Yes.
the video is great, Julianne. It's
Oh,
like
thank you.
it's so vibey and it captures, and the song is like super haunting too. I mean, you did get that ghost in the Fort Gratiot Lighthouse. Um, how do you feel when you win all these awards?
It feels, I mean, it's been over the course of about I think I won the first one with my first band in 2007 or 8, something like that. It feels like a little bit of imposter syndrome at first. Like, wow, I started music very late in life. Now, when I say that, music has always been part of my life, but I did not go into the music industry until late in life. I had a couple things. I had a couple things go wrong with my health in my early 30s, and I had to take a serious look at things for a little while and do a lot to get my health back in shape. And during that time, I thought to myself, I'm not doing all of the things that I should be. I'm serving everyone but myself, and I'm not sure it's serving my higher purpose. And I started just messing around with writing. I couldn't play the guitar yet. I only played the piano. I started entering vocal contests for the first time in my life. And I won a huge vocal contest on the state level at the Michigan State Fair. I came in actually second. And I took the prizes, which were a photo shoot and a demo cut, and I created a demo and shopped myself out to some Detroit bands as a vocalist and just kept going. Then I was writing a little bit for that band, but there were 3 writers in the band, and it was just frustrating to try to get my music heard. And so decided to go out on my own. And, since 2009, I've been a solo artist. So I have a band that I do shows with too, the Rogues. And then I do a lot of solo performances as well. So it's just been a little bit of everything.
What a great testament to never giving up and to finding yourself no matter when it is in life. I mean, people always say, "Oh, it's too late." It's never too late. Here you are, you're
No.
in your 30s, you get your life, you get your health in order, and then you're like, I need to start serving myself. I mean, what a cool story about getting something creative out that is inside of you. Because they always say, you don't want to die with your song inside of you. Um,
Oh, it's
and
true.
that's okay. So not only are you a award-winning singer-songwriter, but you're also an artist. Talk to
Yes.
me about your art because they always say, creativity, it comes in, and when it comes in, you just have to kind of let it go where it goes.
You do. You do. And in addition to always singing and loving music, I was always drawing. I was always doing something with art, and art was always my favorite class at school. That was my favorite. And um, I just kept going with it and doing it just for my own pleasure at first, and also started my art business late in life too. And then when COVID hit, uh, I knew that all of the musicians in my area were going to be fighting for the same gigs when we finally were allowed to go back to performing. And I decided to try to think of a way to separate myself from the rest of the artists and offer something just a little bit different. So I packed up all my artwork, all my paintings, and some of them were big, put them in a small U-Haul trailer with all of my musical gear, and went to North Carolina, where I had wonderful group of people there who offered to help me put on a small tour. So it was an art and music tour where I put my art behind me and I would sing. I had a wonderful guitarist, Buddy Spear, accompany me. And we put on these shows, and I would talk about how the art was related to the music and how the songs were related to the art and how one would inspire the other. And it's just been a really great experience, just really fun.
Ah, that is really beautiful. You've inspired me because I always loved art too when I was a kid. And recently I'm like, why don't I just take an art class? And I
Do it.
had a girlfriend, I was thinking about it. And so, you know how it is when the manifestation, right? You put
Hmm.
the energy out there. And then a girlfriend reached out to me and said, hey, I'm doing this really cool. It's a multimedia art class. You want to take it with me? And I was like, yes, the universe heard me, right? So that's
Yes.
very inspirational. So are you currently on tour with the Rogues or where are you right now? Weren't you just in Nashville?
I was just in Nashville. I was
Okay.
writing down there and I did a songwriter showcase at the Commodore with Debbie Champion, which is a really famous little songwriting spot. It's very fun. Um, my boyfriend and I went to the Ryman and saw a big show. It'd been a little while since I'd been in Nashville. I usually like to go 3 or 4 times a year and write and record and do whatever. And it'd been a little longer this time. So I just felt like I needed to get back there because that place is so magical to me. It hasn't lost its shine. I still get excited every time I'm there because there's so much creativity going on. And you can do something as long as you have energy in that town. There's something going on all of the time. So I always enjoy going there. It's just a blast.
That's great. I've heard nothing but great things. I've been to Memphis, have never been
Oh,
to Nashville, which is kind of shocking because I've traveled quite a bit and I have a good friend that lives there in the music business.
uh-huh.
I've heard great things about it. It kind of was interesting because the record industry was so all focused about Los Angeles, and then the pivot happened, and now it's really all happening in Nashville. All of the
Hmm.
remarkable artists that are recording, and a lot of people move there after,
Yeah.
if they can't get a foothold where they currently are.
Hmm.
Um, so talk to me about what makes you dance because it is a big pivot from the Ghost of the Fort Gratiot Lighthouse. It's
It is.
completely different, but it's so infectious and so fun. It's a great tune.
Thank you. And that was by design to pivot just a little bit because just I love moody music. I love sad songs. I love deep songs and intense songs, something that really makes you feel. I love that. That's my place that I like to go to. But I thought, it's time to branch out, try something just a little different. And I was writing in Nashville, Tennessee with my friend Craig Eck. Craig is a wonderful drummer. He's also a stage manager for people like Sam Hunt. He's toured with Maggie Rogers, Phoebe Bridgers, many other people, and he's also a songwriter. So we decided to sit down, and honestly, the theme was Craig's idea. He said, "I want something that just really makes people want to dance," and that's what we started with. And we just started throwing out lines to each other, and I found a melody, and it just all really came together like in one day. So it was really fun, and I thought we've really got something here. So I showed it to my friend Dave Gibson, and he said, "No, I think that's a hit. I think that's actually a hit right there." And I was just pumped about that song, and it was almost 2 years ago when we wrote it. And I decided like a year ago to cut a really good demo of it. So we shopped it around for a little while and it hasn't been picked up. I've put it in some nice hands, hoping they would cut it, and they didn't grab it. But I thought, there's no reason I can't release it in the meantime so that people can hear it and it can get a little bit of a track record. And boy, according to Sonic Coast, it's being received well.
It is being received well. It's a really, really fun song. Brian gave you a great quote on that too. That was really cool.
You really
So
did.
when you say shop it around, so break that down for the audience. So you're a songwriter
Mhm.
and you're also a performer. So you
Yes.
perform, you sing your own songs, you release your own music. But are
Yes.
you looking for someone like a Carrie Underwood or,
Absolutely.
somebody like that to pick it up? And
Right.
right, okay. Wow,
Yes, that is
how
definitely
fun.
part of the whole thing. Because single mom songwriter in Michigan doesn't have a record label budget to go out and promote a song on the radio, which involves so much more than the listener even knows. You've got to create a radio tour, you've got to create radio promotion, you've got to stage shows all over the US. That was never the design. The design was to get some airplay, let it out so people can hear it, get a really good, gut reaction to what that song feels like to people. And it's just a really fun summer song. I find myself singing it around the house, like find what makes you dance, and I'm dancing around the house. And it's
Mm,
like I can't be the only one that might think that's cool. So
no, no, I was listening to music yesterday and getting my house in order because our daughter's flying home for the weekend. And Al Green came on and
oh,
I just broke out dancing.
yeah,
I couldn't stop, and that is what it is. It's like that movement. It's just so freeing. Dancing makes you happy. You can't help but smile when you're dancing.
it's
It's
true.
just, it's just such a good vibe. Um, let's talk about death and your connection and your view of it and how it might make you really want to dig in and even do more of your art while you're here in this form.
Well, I think I was listening to one of the previous podcasts that you've had on, and the woman, I can't remember which woman was talking about it right now, but it was about coming close to what you think is maybe a situation that can shorten your life. And I was concerned about things when I started to be ill and I was a mother, and I thought, what's
Mm.
going to happen? Luckily I've got everything under control and I feel great now. But at that time, it really put the whip on my saddle. It was like, go, move, get it done, move, do what you can before you're not here anymore. And it really did do that for me. It really was a second chance on never take your health for granted, number one. I mean, it's so important to stay healthy. And I love to travel. I love to do so many things that require me to have good health. So I do take pretty good care of myself now. Doesn't mean I don't have fun, but yeah, I try to be very careful with that. Death, as far as that goes, of course, I've lost people that I've loved very dearly. Um, but I've always had this thing that you mentioned, your mother is not gone. My grandmother is one of my people. I feel like she's always with me. She's always
Mm.
there if I need her. And if I'm really stressing out, I can just feel her. Sometimes I can smell her perfume.
Ah,
Sometimes it's her laugh.
mm,
She had the most contagious laugh. It was the best. And I, I feel like she's still with me often. Um, I see my loved ones that have passed on in dreams. They'll come to me in dream state. Sometimes it's like over my right shoulder. I can always feel someone, there's several. My grandfather I will find coins when we're stressed about money. And I always know that's my grandpa. He's
wow.
always throwing a coin out there so that it's like, simmer down, it'll be okay. There's always going to be more money. Something will
That's
always change. And
that's
yeah, they've
awesome.
always been with me. And I don't know how you feel. Do you have that happen to you? I mean, what are your signs?
Yeah, I do. I shortly after my mom left, I started finding dimes everywhere. And I didn't
Hmm.
even think about it.
Hmm.
I always was a kid that would pick up a dirty penny. I still
Yeah.
do. Found one
Yeah.
on my walk yesterday. Um, but I was finding dimes everywhere, and I didn't think much about it until we were doing a promotion on the radio station, and a psychic medium was on the air, and we were connecting her with the listeners so that she could connect them with their loved ones. And it was a really cool bit. It was leading up to
Mhm.
Halloween. And I so wanted to talk to her about my mom. My mom had crossed over the previous September, and but I knew she was there to do a job, so I didn't say anything. After we were off air, and the gig was done, she just said, "Hey, I got to tell you something. Your mom's leaving you dimes. I don't know why or what the significance is, but just know when you find one that they're from her."
Yeah.
And then I came home, told my husband, told my kids, all of a sudden everybody's finding them. I'm telling my friends are like texting me like from Target, like, "Hey, Jane, Betty just said
Yeah.
hello again." So yeah, I've got hundreds. I don't get them as much anymore, but yes, signs are everywhere. I love that you said about your grandmother's perfume because the
Mhm.
olfactory sense is very, very strong. What was your grandmother's name?
Rachel.
Rachel.
It was
Well, welcome.
Rachael. Yes. And
Ah,
she was a bright, bright light. And I named my daughter Rachel after her. So,
see, that's beautiful. Our
uh-huh.
daughter is our daughter is Betty, named after my mom. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I love that. I love to connect the heritage. Well, welcome, Rachel. I really believe that as long as we continue to speak their names, talk to them, sing to them, ask them for
Mhm.
advice, I feel like they are always with us. And obviously, my opinion, I know a lot of people don't buy into it, but that's okay. There's millions of other podcasts that you can listen to.
Yeah.
Um, this is what I'm all about. Well, that's cool. So you're all about the vibe. That's
Oh,
great.
yeah. I have a whole, I, I believe, quite a few animals that travel around with me too. I used to show horses, and I know my horse Red is around. I mean, I've
Mm,
written a song about him. He's one of the ones that's always with me. I had a dog growing up named Sugar. She's there. Several other horses too that they're there. And I'll see repetitive numbers too. That's another thing where I know, okay, someone's trying to communicate with me. Pay attention what's going on. Pick your head up. Quit
mm,
stressing and worrying so much. Pick your head up and
right,
look beyond it. So, because I can get in a worry thing sometimes when you're trying to carry out three different jobs and do things, and you get stressed and you're trying to get things done. And everybody knows as an independent musician, it can be daunting to try to
right,
get anything done, make any sort of headway on different things. And I think they're there to remind me to just settle down just a little bit and don't forget
right.
enjoy life and feel it and do that.
Good. Yeah, we can get really caught up in the monkey mind where,
Mm.
I owe off to work. I go, I got to do this. I got to create this. But you know what? When we relax and we
Mhm.
just let our art speak through us, it just happens. It
It's the
happens
truth.
the way it's supposed to happen,
It's the
without
truth.
us trying to push that boulder uphill. Okay, Julianne Ankley, what is next for you? This is your time to promote yourself to all these countries. I'm hoping that every single one of my listeners will go download your music.
Oh, I would
It's
love
one of
that.
the little things that we can do. Literally 99 cents, you can support an artist like you. And that's so beautiful to
You know,
know that we can do that.
it's funny because the saying used to be 99 cents will buy you a cup of coffee or a song, and now 99 cents won't even buy you a cup of coffee.
Right. But it will
It
buy
still
you a song.
it will buy you a song.
See,
I
there
mean,
you go.
you think of every streaming device that you buy, every television station that you buy, everything, but you can support an artist for 99 cents. And
Yes.
that's what those songs are. My previous albums, I've done three full albums and an EP before that, and they're all available on all different platforms and in hard copy too. I still have, I think each of them still, I think the one's starting to almost be gone, but yeah, for next, I think I want to take my art has been in more of a I guess you'd call it sort of an impressionistic sort of realism too, just a combination of those two things. And I'm feeling possibly a more abstract direction, just a little more abstract, which is going to require me to tip into my what I call the flow, which is something else that I wanted to talk to you about. And very often when I am painting, I describe it as going away for a while. I will
Mm.
leave my mind and my mind is gone maybe for 2 hours. I will not even know that much time has gone by, 2 or 3 hours. And I truly believe something else comes in and helps me do
Mm.
those. And it's happened with songs before because I've written things and gone to bed and got up in the morning. Where did I come up with that? I can't imagine where that came up from. And so, I think that there's all sorts of help out there for us.
Mm.
You just have to be open to let it come in.
Mhm. This is good. This is good. The audience needs to hear this because I get so many questions and emails about how to tune in. And I'm like, look, I am not a medium. I am not psychic. I mean, no more than the next person. Um,
Hmm.
I believe we all have the ability to connect beyond. I just think we have to believe and get with the flow. I love that
Yeah,
you said flow. So cool. So when you're doing your art, you are gone.
I'm
You don't
gone.
even know. You just it
Mhm.
is coming through you.
Yes,
That's fantastic. Well, I will put all of the links. Do you have a separate website for your art?
I do. It's Julianne Ankley Art.
Okay, good. Well, I
Yes.
will put all of that in the show notes. I'll make sure the julianneankley.com and then the julianneankleyart.com. Is that right?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, great. I'll put both of those in there. And any final thoughts before we say goodbye on the next room?
Gosh, I just feel like when I meet someone like you, Jane, and you noticed or sensed a connection between us like that, I think it's supposed to be. I think
Yes.
it's on purpose. And I think that we often mistake or don't look at those things as much as we should. And now as I'm getting older, I pay more attention to those connections and they mean something. And now that line is drawn from me to you. And your line is drawn to others. And it's important that we all stay connected like that.
Yeah. Wow, beautiful. I believe that as well. I think that we're all just kind of floating out here and there's these little invisible, well, invisible strings. Thank you,
Mhm.
Taylor Swift. Love that song. But that, that's what it is. It's like, I'm connected to you and Brian after all these years, I'm reconnected with him and now I'm learning about my home state of Michigan and the brilliant music that's coming out of that state.
Oh,
Oh
yeah,
my,
there's
it's
so
like
much.
thesoniccoast.com. Please download the app. It is so much fun for me as a true, Michigan person, but also a music lover to find out. Like I'm learning. I'm like, I did not know this band existed.
I
I'm
know.
daily getting turned on to incredible music and people like you. So thank you for taking the time. Thanks for being honest and transparent and sharing with us about Rachel, Grandma. What kind of perfume did she wear? Do you remember the brand?
I can't remember what the brand is, but it smelled like orange blossoms. You're not going to find
Oh,
those in Michigan, so I know when that's there.
that's great. So she's like letting you know she's right there with you.
It's
That is
right there. I
awesome.
don't have to worry so much.
Ah, that's good. Julianne Ankley, julianneankley.com is where you can find this beautiful lady. Check out her art, check out her music. And literally for 99 cents, I mean, you go to I won't even name the big coffee place that everybody goes to, but it's like $5 for just a basic cup of coffee these
Yes.
days. Come on, you can buy 5 songs and support a brilliant artist like Julianne. Thank you for tuning in to the next room. As you can see, it's more than just death. It is where death is dinner conversation, but it's also about life and about this wonderful ride that we're on right here, right now. And if you can be anything on the planet at all, I'm going to say it again, please be kind. Thanks
Yes.
again for tuning in to the next room. Thanks, Julianne.
Thank you, Jane.